film, I remember we were like, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? I mean, how are we going to make people look like apes and actually move the right way? And we figured out to use arm extensions and to just delve into what makes an ape versus a human. And it was the discovery, the true discovery was when we realized it was not about playing an ape at all. It's about sort of shedding the humanity that we are our social conditioning that makes us human, and you just take all the BS away, and you drop into a deep, connected, open, receiving being that's just an ape. So we're animals. Essentially, we're just animals that have been conditioned to have, behaviors that will allow us to succeed in a culture. And when you just sort of strip all of that away and you just become this neutral, grounded, open being, that's when you're the best at playing an ape. And so when we found that discovery, it was not only better for the movie, but it was better for us as actors, because we truly started to tap into some real things that were happening inside of us.
I think that one of the something else we were talking about last night is one of the most beautiful things I've learned from playing Maurice and as an orangutan character is the power of stillness, and which is also something that, especially as a character who communicates by gesture largely and with only very specific chosen moments of actual speech, vocalizations that I did throughout, but still, and orangutans have as a species, have a specificity of action and thought. They don't do anything gratuitous. So for me, I felt that sort of evolved. Maurice as a character in particular, I think, has evolved in his trust of other apes, like as a character, which he didn't have at the beginning. And he learned to trust Caesar, he learned to trust Rocket, and then the greater ape community. But for me as an actor, the evolution has been one of, and the incredible learning has been one of trusting in the stillness and trusting in the registering of a clear thought rather than, and I've actually found that's helped me to do more in other work that I've done since then. So Maurice has taught me a great deal that way on a number of levels.
Yes, sure. I got to play with two chimpanzees, Jacob and Jonah, and it was then when I realized, oh my God, I'm doing everything wrong. I'm playing an ape, and I shouldn't be playing an ape. I need to just be like this chimpanzee that's looking at me like with this. He's looking into my soul, and he's so open and vulnerable, and he gave me a hug, and I was just like so deep. I was like, wow, that's what it is. It's just about being open and simple and grounded and rooted and have integrity with everything you do. That was the discovery. I just went, oh my God, okay, that's where we're gonna go, and that's when I feel like the nuances that Karin's talking about, the subtleties and the little things that matter the most, the moments of stillness in between the actions that are those decisions. I call it the drawing of the bow. It's the most exciting part of the thing. Not when you fire the arrow, but it's the drawing of the bow and the stretching of the strings and the intent and the intention that's clear and the focus that makes something interesting. And you tend to disappear when you're in that zone. You disappear and you become more beautiful and present. And so all of those things, I feel we tried to translate into these films so that these characters were real, even though they were so, quote unquote animated. So.
Because I actually didn't know anything about orangutans or great apes when I was cast as Maurice. I knew nothing outside of the first auditions and the first test movement session that Terry led us through, and I thought, I'm very bad at this. And I actually felt like quadrupedal movement-wise, I was his nightmare of a student for the first couple of weeks. But I worked and I'm like, anyways. So for me, actually, the hardest thing, the research I did around Maurice, all the reading, the listening to vocals, and then eventually the amount of time I spent with orangutans directly, which was considerable. That was actually easier for me to do. The hardest thing for me to do was to find the fluidity of quadrupedal movement, to get that ease, and then Maurice's weight within that. And so Terry pretty much assisted me with that throughout, where we put actual weights on my arms through the first film, partway through the second film, and then it literally took until then before Maurice's 300 pounds, I could just go there, which I can go there now. But it was gradual. So I have to say, for me personally, that was not the long calling, not the thoughts, not the all of that. That was just a beautiful inner journey I loved. But it was quadrupedal walking.
Yeah, and Karen's a perfectionist, so she never stopped practicing, never stopped working.
No,
so it's a constant journey. That's the beautiful thing about when you're playing an ape. You're always finding out more about yourself, and you get to become a better actor with other roles as well. So it's a neat process, and that integrity, the depth and the gravitas that she's talking about, you can carry that in your life. And so I often take roles and work with actors, and I tell them it's not about the movie, it's about your life. Let's find out, let's make your life richer, and the movie will benefit from it. So, and then what we've learned from this has just made us, I think, just more aware of who we are.